Well, welcome to the update. We know that people have been wanting the update, but I am blameless in this. We have Liv to blame for this because she's been in Nepal. And you know Liv doesn't speak, but we've got the biggest mandate to make her speak now because she's been in Nepal. But we'll come back to that when we get to the Nepal bit. There you have, there's a picture straight away on the lead slide of one of our shelter kits being taken away by one of the beneficiaries. And that kind of indicates the way we were doing stuff in Nepal is that it's very widespread communities up in the hills. The decision was taken by the Nepalese government that the boxes were not the appropriate thing to be giving out to beneficiaries because of that, that they were literally having to carry them back up the mountains. And a shelter kit weighing around 20 kilos is much easier to carry, as you can see there. She doesn't look like a weightlifter to me. But a 54 kilo box would have presented a lot of other problems. But anyway, I digress in the first slide. I think that's a record. Right, that's where we are at the world today, 1st of July 2015. As far east as North Korea, although that is a remote distribution now. In fact, technically that's over. We're just waiting for a report back from North Korea. And then as far west as Chile and Paraguay, so our comms on people, and they're dealing with Paraguay and Nepal with the live teams there, so that's quite a job for them with the time zones. Right, moving on. Cameroon, what's happened since we last, I was going to say last spoke, but I last spoke. 224 boxes, AIDA, we talked about that in Cameroon where the team had gone and done train the trainer. Well, they've been tweeting about what they've been doing. They have distributed the 224 boxes up in the north of Cameroon for the violence up in the north of their country. Too dangerous for our teams to operate, but they've been distributing on our behalf and they're providing a report. When we've got that report, we will now discuss what the next steps are. We like AIDA, they're proud to be working with us, they're very good, very efficient. We are lucky to have partners like that in that part of the world, difficult to operate. So we'll be moving on with AIDA if we can, and the signs are looking good for that. North Korea, we touched on it briefly. Now, of all the tent spotters out there, that is a white dome tent with a ShelterBox logo and a roundel from Rotary on the side. But it is slightly different. It has got a chimney coming through it. That is because in North Korea they don't have a lot of concrete and resources to put into that, despite what that picture, I mean that's on the outskirts of Pyongyang. The rebuilding is slow and it is very much comes secondary to them fending for themselves and trying to grow crops. They, on a good year, they need, they only make 2/3 of the food that country needs to survive, and this is not a good year. They're having extreme drought conditions, which cause, or there's a contributory factor to the flash flooding that they had that we were responding to. It's kind of a deep freeze, slow burn deployment in that they don't bounce back, they don't have resources, they don't have spare time because of the very inefficient agriculture. They don't bounce back very well or very quickly. So that tent was sent with the stove, which we'll look at in a minute, because although it's summer now, we know that those people will still be in those tents waiting for the recovery during their winter, which goes down to about -30 and below. So that's the Flex 3 tent. It is a standard tent that's made by NRS. That's canvasy material. It takes a stove, it's bigger. So why are we not using that as our dome tent, I hear you cry? Well, that's because that thing is a lot heavier and it's a lot more expensive. So we only use that when the beneficiaries' needs mean that our our ordinary tent, the Vango tent or the OA's tent, will not match up to the conditions. We've used the tents before and they've done as good a job as they can by insulating and things like that, but the feedback we've got is they need something a little bit more designed to cope with the lower temperatures that they get in their winter, and that's the Flex 3. Yeah, apologise for the elephants we've got above us. We've got 1,000 tents a week being delivered at the moment, so the warehouse is busy, and the development team upstairs, they are developing the new 9-day course, and we've had requests that we, part of the webinar, include part of that, and I'm going to be working with the comms team and the development team to get more information on our training courses. But anyway, another thing that was slightly different with North Korea is that we sent giants. No, we didn't. Those are very small boxes, not very tall people. That is what we call a totem box. That Flex 3 tent is, because it's made out of canvas material, and it can't be folded down as well as our Vango tents, which is one of the reasons that we use the Vango tent as a standard, because it's lightweight, it can be packed small, and it is cheap and lighter, all the rest of it. When you're using a heavyweight tent such as the Flex 3, it doesn't even fit in the box. One tent doesn't fit in the box because it doesn't pack down. It takes up an enormous amount of bulk. It's quite inefficient to transport it. But they need the non-food items, the NFIs, to go with that tent. So we pack them in these little green boxes, which has pretty much about the same amount of non-food items that the ordinary ShelterBox has, but without the tent, and that's to keep them all together so they don't get spread around or lost in the distribution process. That's inside the Flex 3. It's got a cotton inner. If you can see just below Hello Kitty rabbit there, below that is the what do you call them there? They're like mats that they've got slits inside them, and you can push local materials such as straw and other things into that to make that mattress very, very fat without bulking it out before you send. You can see the water filter being used there, and you can see the little totem box being used as like a little table there. The chimney that comes out through the side, and you'll see the stove in a minute, it sucks air down the outside area of the chimney, and the inner core of it is where the smoke comes out. So it's cooling itself around the outside of the inner core. It's a dual core chimney, which means you can put it through that material there without burning it, because it's cooling itself as it's feeding the fire. And that's the stove inside. It heats the tent inside. There's a little, you can see those asbestos mat things, so it doesn't burn a hole. Any ashes that roll out of it doesn't burn a hole in the bottom of the tent. It's quite an expensive bit of kit to have that winter pack inside, but North Korea is the extremes of temperature that we need to, having taken that feedback, we need to move on and respond to the beneficiaries' need, and not just put a master past on their needs. So that was the DPRK. It's the first time we've used the Flex 3 in large numbers. We've used 400 of those out there, and with that stove inside for cooking and heating, and they will be prepared for the winter that's coming. And there you go. 400 boxes, 400 totem boxes. Syria, ongoing. We use partners hand in hand for Syria, and we use the standard UN tent. Again, another different tent from the beneficiaries' need is that it needs to fit in with everybody else, so it looks exactly the same, so they're not singled out one side or the other, particularly for the delivery of it. If someone gets stopped delivering by one side or the other, you can't tell by the tents inside which side is getting those deliveries, because the shelter box will only be able to be delivered to one side, so therefore it can be singled out. So that's what we're doing in Syria. Chile, we have 8,000 households displaced, 600 shelter kits have gone out, and the rest are going out to attend to the people who've had their roofs stoved in from the ash that's coming out of that volcano. Probably going to be sending more kit depending on an assessment that Habitat for Humanity are doing right now. Nepal, well, we have an expert in the room. We are struggling against the conditions and struggling against the import-export sort of restrictions that the Nepalese government are putting on. At the moment we have done, as you can see there, just over 3,000 families. The good news is that the 12,000 tarps that were going across the Indian-Nepal border from the update we've had this morning, they are in ACTED's warehouse and will be going to be distributed in the next week. Then we will see how the monsoon is going to affect the distribution. Now, we are trying to find a way to help people with shelter. The boxes can't be delivered up the mountains. The tents, again, the Nepalese government are not keen on tents. They want to see rebuild type stuff. So the tarpaulins are accepted, and you have to work with the country's government. You can't stroll in there and demand this, demand that, demand the other. It won't get you very far. You have to work with the culture that's there and the government and the rules that are set down. Now, we have found a way of getting those tarps in there. A few of the major aid agencies have walked away because of the restrictions. We're still there. Now we have When we found restrictions in Hainan, we worked around it, and we supported and worked with our partners to build transitional shelters to help in the longer term. Because of the widespread destruction, because of the monsoon and then the winter, it's going to be a slow recovery. So we have one of our, in fact we've got Toby who ran the Philippines projects. He's out in Nepal at the moment, working with ACTED to get those tarps out and distributing those. Also trying to get the 2,500 tarps that we delivered by air. They're in a government warehouse, and we have to go through a certain set of procedures to get those tarps out of that. So we're working there to get those tarps out, working with the 12,000 tarps, the ACTED program, to get those out and to see how much the monsoon is going to slow things down. That will pretty much point us in the direction of where we're going next in Nepal. Is it going to be more tarps? Are they going to fly off the shelves? Can we get them out? If the answer is yes, we'll be putting more tarps in there. If the answer is no, we're going to find another way of getting shelter to those people that need it. You know, past the monsoon, beyond the monsoon and into the winter, what is it that will be needed there? Answers on a postcard, please. We're working on that literally today, tomorrow, next week and beyond. Tanzania, there is, I'm just about to point at the screen there, it won't be much use to you. Burundi has elections at the moment, and they're a lot more excitable than our elections. That is, you know, there's violence, intimidation, and that is driving huge amounts of people across from Burundi into Tanzania, which is much, much safer. And the team were out there last week. In fact, you recognise Todd, bottom left-hand corner. He's rapidly becoming our Africa specialist. And the team were in there to see what they could do. The border's quite insecure, and there is an aid effort going on with IOM. And we are figuring out what is going to be used. We took our tent out there because that ShelterBox would be our priority to send out there. However, there is an aid response already underway, and UN tents are being used. So if our tents are going to cause jealousy issues and, you know, logistics issues and commonality issues, we may be forced down the UN tent. Not something I want to do, but it's if we don't play ball, we won't get to play at all. So we want to put the boxes out. It's looking likely at the moment it could be UN tents, but the situation is very fluid, and we'll be calling in what we can send and how we're going to send it in the next day or two when IOM have come back with a firmer plan of how we're going to move forward. Paraguay is flooding. Again, we've got 100 shelter boxes left over from the last time. Looking at the situation, there doesn't seem to be enough room to put the shelter boxes out on where they're needed. It's kind of shanty town area, and it's just not going to support the shelter boxes. You're going to displace other people by putting one tent out. So again, tarps is what we're looking at here. So again, we're yet to call in what is going to happen there. We've got a Pope visit, which is going to snarl up all the logistics because all the airports and trucks and towns are all going to be snarled up with that huge event that's going on. It's interesting how these wider events that you wouldn't think would have an effect on aid delivery and logistics, and they do. You know, a Pope's visit can really put a huge spanner in the works of any putting a team plan that we have, or getting aid out, or even getting the customs to work. But we're looking at that, and whatever's the most appropriate to help people, we will do. The other question is that can anybody else help? If it's just tarps and the other aid agencies are there with tarps, why aren't they doing their thing? Because if they're there, they can move it a lot quicker and be more appropriate. So this is on the fringes of what we do, and we have the moral conundrum of whether we respond in Paraguay or not. Niger, back to what we do best, which is the boxes. Boko Haram ongoing violence, 360, we've now arrived in Accra and they're heading up to Diffa, and we will be continuing. We've got about 1,500 boxes that have been distributed. We've got about another 500 to go. The Boko Haram violence from Nigeria is getting worse, if anything, so we will be looking with plan to try and move forward this to go beyond the 2,000 boxes. Again, too dangerous for our team to be working in Diffa, but we could send a team into Niamey to do another trainer session and another, just a look over what they've done. Syria, I clearly put this slide in the wrong place, but this is what we've been doing so far. 350 UN tents, 350 tarps, They've received that over the last weekend. And we've also replaced some stock that was distributed, 200 flame retardant tents out of Dubai, and they are with IOM. We're just waiting for confirmation of that from their side. We're the first aid agency in the world to start using those FR tents because everyone else has got much bigger stocks, and as the UN tents is really not our stock in trade, we just almost live hand to mouth with them. We were at the front of the queue because we don't hold huge stocks of the UN tents because it's not our core business. We just only use it when we're forced down and the beneficiary needs for that. So that's what we're doing in Syria. What we've done so far, because when I first started this job 5 years ago, you could look at the year, tell people what you've done in that year, you could look at a country and you could say what you've been doing in that country. It's a different world now. With ISIS, you know, and the Syria conflict, you can't divide it down by country and you can't divide it down by year. The disaster is just ongoing. So we've been in Iraq, we've been distributing in Syria, we've had teams on the ground in Jordan and Lebanon, and since 2012 when it all kicked off, we are just approaching the 7,000 family mark in Syria. So that is starting to move up the league tables of, you know, the biggest deployment, you know, that we've done. It's certainly moved into the top 5, and it's kind of a stealth thing. It's in the background, it's there all the time, it's going on, and it will be going on. So that's going to be another major thing, particularly as the winters now starts to hit, as they get quite severe winters in northern Iraq, which is quite surprising. So remote distributions, Cameroon, AIDA moving forward, we've talked about that. North Korea, we've talked about that. Iraq, 504 AMG, which is Van Gogh tents, winter liners, hats, gloves have been distributed, and we're waiting the finalised data. It's Ramadan at the moment, so there's not a lot of point in putting people in there, not a lot's going to get done. So as soon as Ramadan's finished, we'll be sending a team, hopefully if we've got the spare capacity, to just wave our hands at the back of ACTED and encourage them to, you know, do some more distributions, work with them, see how we can get more people served in Iraq. There's over 3 million people displaced at the moment in Iraq with the ISIS battles that are going on there, so there is work for us to be done out there. It's just getting out there and glad-handing people because they're all busy and trying to find out where we can, you know, distribute safely and move with the times out there. Now, Mali, conflict in Africa again, internally displaced. We're looking at that to see whether we can operate safely and if there's a need. Haiti's an interesting one. During the earthquakes and the crises that they've had over the last 6 years, a lot of people have moved over to the Dominican Republic, which is at the other end of the island. Now, Dominican Republic has decided that they don't want those people there anymore, and they're going to move them across. And there's about 10,000 of them so far moved across, so it's quite a big movement of people. But they, if you were born to a family that moved over from Haiti, not officially, not not emigrated, you've just moved across the border. If you were born in the Dominican Republic to people who weren't supposed to be there, you are neither Haitian nor you are Dominican Republic in the eyes of the Dominican Republic or Haiti. So there's stateless people, which adds another layer to the complications of it. So people are moving across the border, and we have got stocks of tents with IOM in Haiti. And we are talking to them about whether the agencies there need extra help to cope with that, and if they do, we will be putting a team into Haiti to help with the distributions that will be done to the people coming across from the Dominican Republic. Afghanistan, it's not only got the conflict issues, it also has flooding, generally in the spring. It also has landslides as well, and earthquakes. So we're talking with ACTED at the moment about a potential partnership and maybe getting some stuff in there, because it's not the easiest of place to get stuff in safely, and it's not the easiest place to operate safely as well. So we're tiptoeing in and around the Afghanistan issue and trying to prepare ourselves for the future. I was out in Malawi and doing some distributions myself and Becky Maynard. We were working with the local chief, and they said that they needed some shelter boxes, and they had not had any aid in 4 months since the flooding. So we organised a delivery, and there was some shelter boxes full of non-food items, and there was also some shelter kits. and we also had some school boxes, and they were being delivered on the back of the truck. And one of the things that the beneficiaries do is they thank you when you're there, and for me it's not a good thing, because I don't feel that I'm the person that they should be thanking. It should be you people, the people that raise the money, the people that go out and give the lifeblood of what we do. So it's this burden that I carry, that they shouldn't be thanking me. It's to come back and thank the people that support us and hold us up and transfer that help. People want to help these people, and ShelterBox is just the conduit for that help. So, to cut a long story short, the aid turned up and the village were waiting for that aid. And this is what happened when the aid came round the corner. For about 10 minutes, but that was not choreographed. We were there 10 minutes before. It just happened around us. So there you go. Thank you from Malawi, and a thank you from me and Liv, the one who does not speak. If you've got any questions, a couple have come in, and I hope I've addressed them. If not, send me the email and tell me to address them again. Sorry for the gap. Blame Liv. She was out there. And we'll do another one in a month, and hopefully we'll have got those tarps out in in Nepal, and we will be also wondering what else we're going to hit, and maybe we'll have some movement in Syria. I hope so. Thank you very much for your time. Email me at ALFE, that's Alfie, at ShelterBox.org. If you've got any suggestions, you want any special guest stars, longer, shorter, we're open to suggestion. Thank you very much.